I'm Samuel Doe. I'm the country director for UNDP in Sierra Leone. Africa is exposed to multiple forms of disasters. We have talked about health-related crises, Ebola. We recently have heard about meningitis. We've heard about Lassa fever in some other countries. And the more and more we have climate stresses, these health-related diseases that we have no experience with will be emerging, and Africa will have to address those challenges. The second challenge Africa has had is the whole question of drought, which has imposed food insecurity in many parts of Africa. Drought, flood, all of those challenges that undermine our ability to feed ourselves. A third major crisis that is emerging in Africa, which is man-made, is the growing level of terrorism, cross-border violent crimes that are undermining the security of our communities, also undermining the state authority. These are important, really difficult challenges that we are faced with. The fourth challenge that Africa faces is that a lot of the resources that Africa has, these resources are sold outside of Africa, and African countries, African governments are not necessarily in control or influencing the prices of these resources. So over time you have price volatility. So the groundnut that comes from this part of the region, the iron ore and the gold and diamonds are then decided, the prices are decided outside of Africa, and that creates its own shock, and it depletes our economies or all of the plans we have of our various economies in the continent. We see progress, whether it is through the African Union, whether it is through ECOWAS, or it is through other sub-regional bodies, that Africans are increasingly asking themselves, we need to take matters into our own hands. Our governments are asking, we need to find ways where policy, government resources are mobilized to address our problem. It's no longer humanitarian support. While that is needed, that is important, unless the leadership is from Africa, it is increasingly a challenge to resolve this problem. So there's good hope because our leaders are taking charge of the humanitarian response to all of the crises we have. The second good hope that is in the continent is that there is increasingly collaboration across countries, across governments, cross-border support that governments are having. This would increasingly help us deal with our problems ourselves, or African governments dealing with their problems, African communities dealing with their problems themselves. And third, there is a reality globally that if there is a single problem all the way in Niger or a problem in any other country, it immediately impacts the entire globe. When Ebola happened in West Africa, in the Mana River countries, the rest of the world realized that unless we address this problem collectively, it is going to impact the rest of our communities. So that global solidarity is also impacting on the way we respond to crisis. So these for me are emerging realities that inspire hope. Crisis can only be responded to by people who are affected by it. So if the local communities, the people who are affected, take leadership in responding to crisis, you have a solution that is close to the problem. And so we need to stress that. We need to decentralize the response to recover, the response to crisis, and put the communities in the lead and support those communities. Individual communities, horizontal network of communities that then scale up to the national level. A top-down approach from the national is not necessarily the solution to the problems we have in Africa. And if you come to realize, if we are able to understand the local community who have been dealing with these problems for years, they have developed some solutions that we can take to scale and we can transform into national policy. But we need to listen to local communities and local response to local problems.